Oh, hello! We are still here in PNSQC 2022, 40th anniversary version. We are, as I promised, we're going to be having a few more interviews, and I found here, let me start here, our amigo, let me see if I do it right, Peter Földházi.
Almost perfect.
Oh man.
Much closer this time. But yeah.
Please introduce yourself, amigo.
Yeah. So I'm Peter Földházi, and yeah, I'm Hungarian. That's why the funny name.
Pronunciation? No, it's not a funny name. It's,
yeah.
Everyone has a different name.
Yep.
Only some people are less skilled to pronounce it. So
it's just the different languages. That's it. That's it. Yeah.
It's not easy. But okay, amigo Peter, I will stick to the part of your name that I can pronounce. So, for everyone watching, and give you an insider story of what is happening, this guy has been following me since last week. Can you believe it? He was around at Starist. You gave a talk there, right?
Yeah.
Well, two.
Three.
Wow.
Yeah,
I wasn't aware of that.
A tutorial, a lightning keynote, and a track talk. Yeah.
And a very good beer-themed keynote. We're going to get into that in a moment. And then, I mean, we started talking. We went for dinner with a group of friends that we met over there. These conferences are huge, great experiences to make new friends and to learn new pronunciations.
Oh, yeah.
So we knew that we were both coming to PNSQC. That's why we didn't have too much of a hurry to interview him over there at Starist. So Star West.
Yep.
Keep switching them. So now finally the moment has come to have my amigo Peter here. Amigo, would you mind giving the people a little bit more introduction that I have already in our silliness? Who are you? What do you do? Where do you work? What's the deal with you?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'm Peter Földházi, and so I originally come from Hungary. I started working for EPAM Systems there and worked there for 7 years, and they brought me over to the other side of the Atlantic, to the States, 3.5 years ago, almost 3.5 years ago now.
Wow.
And yeah, so I've been with them for more than a decade, and yeah.
Cool. And what do you do with EPAM Systems?
Right now I'm a quality architect, which is basically a consultant role in quality engineering or quality assurance. And before that I was a test automation engineer for 8 years, and coming all the way from manual testing all the way to test automation, senior and lead position. So I was basically taking step by step, finally getting to...
Literally climbing the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
You could call it. It's interesting that that part of the role, because you are a service provider, you're a consultant, right?
Yep. Yes.
You work with multiple customers, you get there, you provide the service, you're out, next one. And at the same time, you are here. That's not a common thing to see, like someone, many that I have met are, or they are their own companies, or they are promoting a company, a service, or a product, mostly product, dev roles and all that stuff. But you are a senior, super senior, turbo senior QA in your company. How does that work? How do you manage to balance all that?
Oh yeah, so actually that's not necessarily easy right now because, as you mentioned, I was on the Star West last week, this week on the PNSQC. Next week, actually, I'm going to be in Marrakesh, in Morocco, for the ISTQB General Assembly. So 3 weeks in a row, I'm not going to be at home. And so the thing is that, yes, as you mentioned, it's outsourcing and balance it out and make sure that I'm here on the conference as well. And I'm still able to contribute on the project where I'm working. That's one part of it. The other part, as you mentioned, like typically it's it's more of the product engineering companies or people who own their own companies who come here and like to other conferences as well, being there on multiple conferences. For us, basically our product are our knowledge, and that's how I basically also give some exposure to EPAM. That I hope that people who hear my talks and other EPAMers talk, we will see that, okay, what we know is really valuable and we are able to teach each other really effectively. That's how I got here. I didn't start out as someone who was super turbo quality engineer, but I also picked up the knowledge at EPAM.
It's a little by little, I'm sure that you started learning and growing and getting more skills, but
Yep.
it's funny, or well, not funny, like impressive for me, that's what you are trying to do here, like show off that, hey, I work for this company, we know a lot of stuff, we know QA, look at it, hire us, I can help you training or whatever, all the services that you can do. And that's cool, because many organizations, as you very well said, like customers, possibly. But you're not, like, I'm going to help you, and if by that you can appreciate that I know a lot of stuff, win-win, right?
Exactly.
And specifically, what type of tests or what type of things do you help at with EPAM or your customers?
Okay, so how it typically looks like is that, so where I come, like, let me take a step
Some
back.
background.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I need
Once upon a time.
Once upon a time, when we start talking with our clients. So yeah, let me slow down, because usually I want to say too many things at the same time. So first of all, so either we do an assessment, which takes a couple of weeks, depending on how deeply we have to go into the details. Again, either we do that, and after that they make a decision whether to do it on themselves or hire us to do the work, or right away they tell us, okay, do the assessment and do the actual job as well for us. So
That's very interesting, because instead of just jumping in and services, and push, you come by and listen, like, what is your situation, what do you truly need, chill, let's see what, and probably that's the same, like, you are not pushing a specific tool, you are not pushing, if I remember well, you guys are tool agnostic, right?
Yep.
So whatever you need, we're going to recommend the best medicine. I'm not married with a drug company or whatever you need. And
Exactly.
that adds up a lot to organizations needing services. Like, yeah, I'm not like compromised in my decisions. Whatever is best for you is what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Actually, so we do have our open source solutions. So we have some solutions ready. We call them accelerators, such as the Selenium or the report portal. But what we do is when we tell them, okay, we see that, for example, you have flaky tests, probably because you are unable to heal your tests when the DOM changes. Typically, that's when we tell them that Selenium is there, and you can use it right away, and it's on top of Selenium. So if you already use Selenium, it's pretty easy to switch over to Selenium. So we would recommend it to them. But if they say that, okay, we don't want to do that switch, we say that it's absolutely fine with us. Then, of course, there are other ways to make sure that the tests are not going to be flaky. So we can propose other ways as well. It's not just the tools, but also the processes, or how you write your code, or how you select your test cases.
It's really interesting, because it's that's one. It's not my way or the highway. You are like, I present you this solution I have, and I'm selling, in all honesty. But you don't want it? Okay, let's see how can we play around. And I think that's a great perspective on if your customers do not love you already, and people watching, if you don't call these people, I'm like, I don't know what may convince you. This is, I would say, ethical and the best approach, because it's not only oriented at scripting and having services, truly helping people, right?
And we don't, that's the difference. We don't sell boxed solutions that, okay, you want a web page, here is that solution, buy it, and we support you. We build it from scratch. We try to, or if they already have something, we try to understand why it's not working the way they want it to work. There could be many reasons for that. So we try to figure it out and build what they exactly want.
That's great philosophy. And as an example, you mentioned that the organization and you yourself, your deal is to come and show off that, hey, I know lots of stuff, I'm good at what we're doing, or we are as an organization. How did you manage to get there? Like, how were your beginnings and how did you get to where you are today? Would you mind sharing a little bit?
Okay, yeah, I try to share it as quickly as possible because the story
make
is
the trailer version because
basically the company was founded in 1993 and by Arkady Dobkin, and basically he told his friends that, hey, I'm going to work for Americans, make good money, and write software for them. So his friends were like, oh, that's not going to happen. But he proved them wrong, and now he has a company which has more than 60,000 people and all over the world. And we grew to 650 people this way. And they started growing more and more. So basically, I think how it really started is that it was kind of a really elitist company. They didn't hire anyone who wasn't strong enough. Now, obviously, later on, they realized that there are people who are not there yet. They are not senior yet, but can become senior in a couple of years, 1 or 2 or 3 years, if we help them. So that kind of changed, and mentoring programs and junior programs were introduced. So, for example, when I joined, there were a couple of fresh start or very inexperienced Java engineers joined, 14 of them, and they went through a 3-month junior program. So what happened after that? They were already able to start working with other more senior engineers, and they, of course, their hands still had to be held. But what happened? After a year, they were able to do the job on their own. Yeah. And another year later, they were the ones mentoring other juniors.
Huh. So, that's very interesting because whenever I ask for the question or the recommendation, how can someone grow, improve, or become a better tester? Myself, is an answer that I would give. Find a mentor, start getting into it, and get better at it.
Exactly.
But what you're saying here is that in the organization, by default, you pair up a junior with a mentor, and they are just walking together and holding multiple hands, which is pretty awesome.
You have your mentors right away there, and the program. Yep.
So it's a very efficient methodology, to call it in a way, set of procedures. And I'm curious, that's on the EPAM side, but how was it for you? Was it like that, like your personal? Cool, okay.
For me, it was very different. Actually, how I started in testing was, I don't know if you know the game Dota.
Yeah.
So Dota is a massive online game.
MMORPG?
No, it's more like an action RTS, which is basically there are 2 teams. Both teams have 5 players. Every player has their own hero. You can select from, I don't know how many right now, but way more than 100 characters. Okay. And every time you start from scratch, from level 1, and you can grow up to level 25. That's how it was back in the days. And you needed to come up with builds, like how to skill your characters, what to buy for them. And I was playing so much that eventually I became a tester of that game. So,
like officially?
Yeah, it's like, it wasn't, officially, but in a way it's not official that we weren't we weren't told to the people. Yeah, we were just there kind of in the shade. We didn't really spread the word that, okay, we were testers. It was a smaller group, and we basically played every day to test the latest version, give feedback on the version, not just finding bugs, but from balance point of view as well, like how it feels to play it. Because every time there's a little bit of change in how a character plays, the skills how strong it is, how weak it is, or the skill set, the whole game could be like become imbalanced very easily. So that's not an easy test to balance, like to test the balance, and that's one of the things that I was really focusing on. And but it's different than what I'm doing right now as a tester. Very different. But it basically started me in testing.
It's funny because you're not the first person in this set of interviews that tells me that started as a video game tester and that got that was the path into the testing world. But how did you did the conversion from video game tester into QA software tester?
So how it was, so basically this was a hobby for me doing it. So I didn't get paid for it, I did it because out of passion.
You liked it?
Yep. So what I did later on, I needed money, so I started working as a developer at a company. And actually I give an example which most people I think wouldn't be happy to share, and for a very long time I wasn't able to share it as well. I was working there for 2 months, and I wasn't doing as well as my damn boss was expecting. So after 2 months, he laid me off and told me like, okay, I didn't meet his expectations. So for a while, I didn't want to work as a software engineer. So I was working as a help desk operator at the T-Mobile, basically Hungarian Telecom. And there was an opportunity later on to move to testing. Because I already knew the softwares that I had to test later on, they selected me. So I became an application tester there in 2011, in September. And basically what happened, 10 months passed by, and then I joined EPAM and became a test automation engineer there.
Did you join directly this junior program that you mentioned, or
no? That
you already came with experience.
I already came with experience of manual testing, so I already had that background, and I just told them that hey, I want to become a test automation engineer. So they at that time EPAM didn't have a specific program for test automation engineers. Later on, they introduced that. I think 2 or 3 years later. And what happened was there was one guy who picked me up as his mentee. So he was mentoring me for 1.5 years. So that's, I think, really rare that you have the same mentor for 1.5 years. But because of that, I only needed 1.5 years to become a senior test automation engineer. He was so effective at teaching me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Again, the key, this mentor role in your life, it's super important because how long has been your career in testing?
At that time, or?
Yeah, from when you joined the EPAM until now, how long have you been?
I've been for more than 10 years at EPAM. So I would say test automation engineer for more than 10 years. Testing, maybe 11 years. I wouldn't, if we don't count my hobby testing as a game tester.
No, because that wasn't like officially or professionally.
So 11 years, yeah.
So since you joined EPAM until you became a senior master super tester, what was the period? Sounds like it was, if my math is not wrong from what you mentioned, 1 or 2 years?
Yeah, so so first I was at Telecom for 10 months. Then another 1.5 years later, I became a senior test automation engineer. So actually I'm one of the fastest, or if not the fastest, growing in test automation.
I mean,
in EPAM.
It's even in EPAM, but I think that what made the difference is as well, you had this mentor, someone guiding you, holding your hand. And look out, everybody. That's a very important recommendation. I think everyone that I have been able to interview has mentioned it one way or another, that having that opportunity, that hand, yesterday Vernon was saying like an enabler or a sponsor or a mentor, it's super important.
That's one thing. Another thing was that I was on the right projects. So my first project was already a test automation project. Actually, it was a desktop application project, and I believe that was more of a mathematical problem that I had to solve rather than an automation problem. It was a map generation, or a couple of map generation functionality. Yeah, for an oil services company, and I worked together with a geologist, and he didn't know how to code. I knew how to code, but I didn't know the geographical background or the geologist background behind the whole thing. So first week I was there, He taught me all the background, all the domain knowledge, gave me all the equations to use for figuring out how to automate a test for maps that consisted of 2 to 3 million dots. Now imagine if you try to manually validate it with an equation, all the 2 to 3, like, obviously it's impossible. Yeah. And what happened, my first solution ran per test case like 1.5, 2 hours, so it was pretty slow, but it was already good enough to be able
better
to...
than what was around.
Yeah, because right now we were able to, I was able to detect some issues right away, actually even with the equation. So already on that level, not even in software level, but equation level, like specification level, there were issues that I was able to unwind this way. And the next one was that their architect told me that there were some functions that were written in C and they're super quick, so I should try them. So I tried them and I was able to bring it down to 2 to 3 seconds per test case.
So how long were they taking originally?
1.5, 2 hours per test case.
Down to?
2 to 3 seconds.
Oh, wow.
So
just check this optimization and this, and for the modernity it's better that our tests execute as fast as possible.
Yeah, and the key here is that I didn't have to be a good programmer there or be the best test automation engineer. It was a mathematical problem that I had to figure out. So it was more about figuring out how that had to be solved. Now my future projects were more about test automation and test processes related issues that I had to mainly figure out. But I think you always have to think about what is the problem that you have to solve and what is the right solution for that. It's not always test automation in itself.
That's a very good, I may quote you on that for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's key that there's this mental fallacy or cognition bias called the man with a hammer. When you learn how to hammer well, you will see nails everywhere. And that happens with automation. We fall in love with automations and we end up trying to automate the hell out of everything. Mm-hmm. Where at times is, well, probably with the tool, right? You just optimize it just using C, period, good,
yep.
and a huge optimization. And that's really interesting, and the way it interconnects with everything that you are mentioning. There's one more connection. How does that relate with your talk here at PNSQC?
Okay.
Yeah, I see some things here and there that have to do. First of all, what was your talk about?
So my talk was about the trial testing architecture, and actually my second project at IPAM was with a really huge company from Germany, who is really well known, and probably I'm not wearing any of their stuff right now, but actually I'm still loyal to them. I still have a lot of clothes from them. But anyway, they had a fitness application, actually two different fitness applications for which we provided the UI, the native mobile applications for iOS, Android, and at that time Windows Phone as well.
Okay, now I'm starting to get an idea from where. What's this?
Yeah, and basically what happened was I worked first on one of the iOS applications. I was first learning the domain by doing manual testing. Sometimes I even had to run when I went to do some play paintball or airsoft, I took the devices with myself, the gadgets, and collecting test data. So even during my hobbies, I was able to work. So I really liked that project. Anyway, going back to the talk. So the trial testing architecture comes in the picture because this is a project where I came up with this idea. That was in 2013. And what happened was I was working on the first iOS product. I took over the development of an already existing iOS test automation framework. Now, what happened was they told me that eventually I will have to do the same thing, build the same framework for the other application as well. And you know, we test automation engineers are pretty lazy people and we don't like to do too much work. So we try to
That's the
automate.
characteristic. Why we automate? We are lazy. We want to cover a lot and
Yeah.
do the less possible.
Yeah, and be able to play more darts or anything, or talk with our
Or
colleagues.
Dota or whatever.
Or Dota. Well, Dota may be not the best.
You're
during the work
already,
time.
that's already behind.
Yeah. Anyway, so what happened was I already had my test cases and I already had my test libraries. And everything was really coupled to each other, and I was thinking about, okay, what can I reuse from the current solution? So what I did, I started building a third layer with all the libraries that are not dependent to the business logic of that application. So now what I did, I built that, wasn't dependent on that application anymore. And once I started working on the other project, I was using the very same libraries to build the framework for that other project as well. So I saved a couple of weeks of work for myself. And what happened, a couple of months later, I created a similar core layer or framework layer for EPAM, and using that knowledge. And what happened was one of my colleagues asked me, "Hey, Peter, I heard that you have a fancy solution for iOS.
May I use it?"
Yep, and yeah, exactly. So he started on a new project. He asked me, "Can you please give me that solution?" Yeah, here it is. So right away, I was able to do that. Had I not done that, I would have had to go through my solution, figuring out what I can give to him, pruning all the application-dependent logic from the libraries. So it would have taken a lot of time for me, like at least a week or 2 weeks for me, while doing my regular job. Now this way, it was already there, and he was able to start working on it. And there was another guy, and later on I had other projects as well. So
And
of
then
course
you became famous. Everyone wanted a piece of your software.
Oh yeah, I was basically in Hungary. I was the number one source of knowledge for mobile test automation.
Wow.
At least in EPAM.
And that's what that story you're sharing on the talk that you did
Yes.
here.
Yes.
That's mind-blowing. And speaking of creating, I was going to say a little bit of software, I don't know how big it was, that you can share with the world. And if it's useful, just pass it around, and you can go all over your country and present it and be the best software provider. I think that's a cool thing about all the repositories becoming social networks. Like, hey, I built this, probably will help you. There you go, there you go. Come and grab it. I don't care. And that's really cool, and because it shows me that you have this passion for sharing, this passion for many other things, and that connects a little bit with another of your passions that you connected and did a talk. I know it's not so related about PNSQC, but I really would love you to give a glimpse on what was your keynote lightning talk at Star West. This last week. What was it about? I'm thrilled.
Yeah, actually, I have that shirt on right now, but I'm not going to
It's
take
kind of
my
cold here. I
away.
have a jacket.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool out here. Yeah. So, yep, my talk was about how testing helped me become a better home brewer. So I'm
Beer
Beer.
brewer.
yeah, and so basically, it's funny because I think I received a much bigger upload for mentioning beer than talking about anything
It's
specific
a popular
to testing.
topic, man.
Yeah.
Everyone loves beer.
Yeah, it shocked me like very positively that that was I never got such a huge applause in my whole life. But when I mentioned that I'm going to talk about beer, everybody was on track.
You got me thinking that some of my talks I need to make them about tequila or some.
Oh,
Sadly, everyone loves beer. With tequila, some people are like, tequila is kind
like
of
it.
mean to me. But I need to find out something. But I love the twist. So what was this connection that you found in between brewing and QA on your talk? Could you share quickly?
yeah. So basically, when I start a hobby, I always try to make a lot of learnings and give some kind of structure into itself. So of course, I showed like how test strategy helped me like build a better like way of collect the ingredients, what ingredients I need, how much, how they contribute to my brewing, like how they contribute to testing, right? Or what do I measure? What those metrics provide me? What is the value of those? Like, for example, measuring the cost of the yeast, the hops, the grains. Okay, if it's a really dry hopped IPA, then I see that basically the hops are going to be more costing more than anything else combined. So if I feel that it's a little bit too much for a beer, it's too costly, I know where to take back from the cost. Or the brew schedule. Usually it takes for me like 6 to 7 or 8 hours to brew a beer, and it doesn't stop there. I still need to ferment it, bottle it, or keg it, and so on. But anyway, what I do during the brew schedule, I have the steps that I'm taking, just like in a test case. You have the test steps, you have expectations what's going to happen, but there are actual results. So you check if there's a discrepancy, then you know that you need to improve there something, or be prepared for some potential issues coming up again.
And you have your iterations, you have your retrospectives, and you keep improving agile beer, continuously getting better. And you even won a prize, right?
Yep, and that's basically the moral of the story is that you're going to face issues, you're going to learn from those issues. And so one of the examples that I gave was I entered the competition with a tasty beer. At least I really liked it, or maybe my beer buddies were lying when they said that they liked it, but I personally liked that beer. But I selected the wrong style, so I was last in line because of that, because it didn't match the specifications. Exactly. Now what happened?
The requirements.
The requirements, exactly. So what happened 2 years later, so a year ago, I entered the competition with a double IPA, and I made a lot of research to make sure that I'm brewing an actual double IPA, an American double IPA, and I did that because I was the closest to what an American double IPA should be, and I did everything correctly. I won the competition. So what happened? I did a lot of mistakes.
Now you need to start a brewery because you did all the QA steps in your beer making. I mean,
maybe I will pick it up as a second job. I definitely don't want to give up on QA, but
who said about giving that up? I mean, beer shouldn't get in the way, but you shouldn't let beer go.
Yeah, it would be fun to have that, but it's a lot of effort to get that.
Yeah, when you were describing me earlier, I have a situation with gluten, and I was telling hey amigo, we need to work out something gluten-free on your stack of beers. He's like, yeah, you just have to change the requirement and do things a little bit different. There are huge. This guy needs a YouTube channel or something with the art of brewing beer because it's huge. And amigo, I don't want to hold you. There are still some sessions that you can catch up on. For the people that want to find out more about you, your beer, or, well, first you and your beer, where can people reach out to you?
Well, for my beers or for my...
Oh, you have separate areas for each one? Okay,
no,
okay.
I just...
One at a time.
Well, if you want to taste my beers, you have to come to St. Louis. But
you are all invited already?
Yep. I'm very happy to share. I think I have too many beers. I know that there's no such thing as too many beers.
Winning beers.
Well, just one award-winning beer for now, but hopefully...
For now, I like that attitude.
I'm going to enter another competition in November. Oh, actually I have to enter this month, so to make sure it's there on time, but anyway, I already brewed that in January. Anyway, coming back to answering your question, so I have a website, peterfoldházi.com, very easy if you can spell my name.
That's what I was going to ask. Can you spell your last name so that people don't get...
Yeah. So my last name is Fold, just like fold, like folding the cards. Then Ajzi, almost as hazy as a hazy beer, but not Y, but I. So Foldajzi.
Okay, that's what I was saying wrong. I never heard it right. Yeah. Man, this is tough. Thank you for spelling it out for me.
Sure.
And you have your own website? Any other areas?
LinkedIn as well. I promise I try to answer. Sometimes I'm a week back or 2 weeks back, but if you find me at the right time, I'm answering immediately. If not at the right time, maybe you have to wait a couple of days or a week. I'm on Twitter as well. Right now I was a little bit more active on Twitter.
Okay, easier to get a quick response.
Yeah. Or if you just want to see where I'm at, what I'm doing, especially like technical stuff. If you are interested in some of my brews, that's not the best place to follow me.
Okay, any Instagram for the beer or anything that you keep up with?
I have an Instagram, Peter Földházi, so it's public right now, and you can find some of my creations, not just for beer, but hiking as well. So I'm sharing some of those photos as well. I like hiking. I haven't been doing too much in the past 1.5 years, but hopefully, it's more like being a father now. It's more difficult to get to like wilder places, like going up the mountains of Colorado or
No,
California.
and because not so newly father, is getting this man is responsible. Brews children, beer, QA, all the pack. It's amazing, amigo. Okay, you already mentioned what are you going to be doing next week?
Yeah, the next week.
Of logs with that. Want to repeat just in case?
The ISTQB General Assembly, and it's secret right now, but hopefully in a couple of months, probably next year, it's going to be revealed. So
it's coming.
It's coming.
Be prepared.
It's coming.
And another amigo that is all over the place, traveling a lot. Stay tuned. Catch up with him. You know his webpage, LinkedIn, and even Instagram, if you want to. Amigo, it's been such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very
much for coming.
Thank you very much for having me here.
No, I love it, and I look forward to, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to walk into you in another conference or event. Everyone, I'm looking at the time, and it's highly unlikely that we will have another stream. So with that, here with my amigo Peter, I'm going to be closing this stream for today. We have the keynote happening in a moment, and tomorrow I will be giving a modern performance, continuous performance workshop, and it's going to be hard to stream and do that at the same time. So with that, I think we will close this season, and this has been PNSQC 2022, the 40th anniversary. Super happy to be here, and super happy to be in person, able to meet great amigos and hear about awesome beer stories. So, Peter, thank you again.
Thank you very much, Leandro, and thanks for joining in for PNSQC, and hopefully next year as well, we will be here.
Yep, see you around, and adios for now.
Adios.
Leandro out, completely out, because we're calling it a day and stopping the stream because it